On Anna's wedding day, my beloved leaped from the 18th floor. When I opened his studio, it was filled with portraits of Anna. The strokes were crude and passionate, yet carried his fervent love. Friends said Simon had loved Anna for 10 years, she was once his only light. Then I blinked and saw Simon, held back by the school bully in the classroom, silently closing the door. Later, he knocked on my window in the rain, his voice hoarse and desperate. "Adeline, don't you want me anymore?" Simon, a professor of astrophysics, recently discovered a new asteroid. During an interview, he unexpectedly became a hot topic due to his strikingly mesmerizing looks. The focus of discussion shifted from the asteroid to his almost ethereal appearance. When it was revealed that the asteroid was named after his beloved, netizens erupted in excitement, praising this divine love story and scrambling to uncover who he was. Watching the video on my phone, my lips never came down. At the end of the video, the reporter smiled and asked, "Professor Simon, is there anything you'd like to say to your beloved?" Simon hesitated, his dark eyes trembling slightly. "Happy wedding." His tone was calm, yet intertwined with a barely perceptible, almost on the brink of collapse despair. I froze instantly. What wedding happiness? Wendy, by my side, jokingly nudged me. "Adeline, Simon may look aloof, but who knew he could be so romantic, celebrating an anniversary as a newlywed, is that so?" Watching Simon's affectionate eyes in the video, my cheeks instantly flushed. I had been with Simon for 10 years. I had transformed him from a despairing, moody teenager to the refined and scholarly professor he was today. 10 years ago, when he transferred to my school and became my desk mate, his fair skin and picturesque features were met with impatience in his eyes towards me. And now, he named an asteroid after me, speaking of his beloved with eyes usually cold, now tinged with longing and tenderness. Today is our first wedding anniversary. I touched my abdomen, prepared to tell him the news of my pregnancy as soon as he returned home. However, what I received was the news of Simon's death. He leaped from the 18th floor. Clutched in his hand was a piece of paper. "Death is just a return to the universe. After billions of years, we will reunite amidst the stars and seas." With Wendy's support, I took care of Simon's affairs. He had made a will, stating that all his assets should be donated after his death. For some reason, I was surprisingly calm these days. After the funeral, I received a call from the lawyer. "Ms. Adeline, Simon owned a villa that isn't part of the donation range. If you have time, you can come and deal with it." The villa was in the southern outskirts of the city. Opening the gate, I was speechless at the sight before me. The hall was filled with portraits. While the strokes were crude and radical, rough like sketches done in haste, the people in the portraits appeared vibrant and lifelike due to the intense love depicted. It was Anna, the campus belle of our high school. In 10 years, Simon had never mentioned her name to me. I stumbled a few steps forward, grasping the table for support. The table was neatly arranged with several pieces of amber. Enclosed within were a piece of candy, a dried flower, and a broken diamond nail. The amber, smooth and round, seemed like something often held and cherished. These were things Anna had casually discarded, treasures in Simon's eyes. Meanwhile, the wedding ring I personally picked for him lay in a dried-up pallet nearby. My heart ached in waves, tears streaming uncontrollably down my cheeks. Sitting down, I painfully opened the notebook on the table. It bore witness to Simon's secretive crush over the span of 10 years. On the first day of his transfer, he received a piece of candy and a friendly smile from the former campus belle in the front row. It was as if a ray of sunlight had penetrated his dark heart. For the abused and bullied gloomy teenager, it was their first unadulterated kindness. From then on, he was ensnared. He wanted to lock her up, to possess her, to make her smile only at him. Yet he couldn't bear dragging such a bright soul into the darkness. Not Adeline, was Anna. She was the receiver of his wedding gift. From beginning to end, there were only a few mentions of me. Married, a bit of regret, but he needed to take responsibility for her. I feared his low blood sugar, the breakfast I had prepared for him, the school bully I chased away, the fire I pulled him out of, the years of my companionship and solace, all not mentioned. All he couldn't forget was Anna's radiant smile from those years gone by. Each word of his felt like a torture on my heart. I clenched my fists, taking deep breaths. The scent of pine lingered in the air, reminiscent of his clean and crisp presence. It made me slightly nauseous. Some people are just despicable, not worthy of redemption, not worthy of love. I pressed my palm against my stomach. He didn't deserve me to bear his child. As I was about to get up, a sound suddenly came from the door. Two figures entered, Simon's childhood friend Mike and Anna. Mike's eyes were red, his voice hoarse. This villa was left to you by Simon. You were once his only light. Back then, he was so close to giving up due to depression, only to gather strength by looking at your photo. Anna stood there, bewildered, with a misty layer in her eyes. After he passed the selection, he didn't need to go to class, but he stayed every day just to have more chances to see you. It was then that Mike noticed me behind the bookshelf. He paused, then with a look of disgust creasing his brow, he said, "What are you doing here?" He quickly approached and ruthlessly pushed me aside. "Get out quickly, don't dirty the only clean place Simon has. If it weren't for you clinging onto him, he wouldn't have ended up like this." His shove made me stumble, a subtle pain creeping in my abdomen. I steadied myself, then slapped him back. "What's it got to do with me? I've never forced him to love me, to marry me," he missed Anna. "It's his own cowardice and cheapness." Anna's nasal voice suddenly spoke up. "Did he not receive the love letter I sent him?" Mike and I were both stunned. "What are you talking about?" Before the college entrance exam, I left a love letter on his seat. But I never got a response from him. As she spoke, a bitter smile crossed her face, then she looked up, eyes tinged with resentment. "It was you, right? Did you throw away the love letter out of jealousy? Did you make us miss each other for 10 whole years, leading us to separate paths as ghosts and humans?" I had no knowledge of this incident. But Mike believed it. You witch." With gritted teeth, he lunged at me, and my belly hit the edge of the table hard. Intense pain surged through me, fresh blood slowly seeping out. My vision darkened, and I collapsed to the ground. When I opened my eyes again, I was holding a book, wearing a school uniform, standing at the door of the utility room. Inside the utility room, young Simon leaned against the wall, stray black hair falling across his forehead, looking at me with a hint of confusion in his eyes. School bully Alan lazily sat opposite him, looking indifferent. Seeing me, a lazy smile played at the corners of Alan's mouth. "Worried about him?" "I was just looking for him, to have a chat." The feel of the book in my hand didn't seem like a dream. My limbs turned icy cold in an instant, hatred surging within me. The book dropped with a thud. I closed the door behind me expressionlessly and walked away. But a sudden sound of the door being pushed open came from behind me. Like a gust of wind, Simon ran past me, leaving only a hasty figure behind. "Where are you running?" I just wanted to ask him why he didn't sign up for the sports meet. Alan muttered while picking up the book I dropped, handing it to me without courtesy. I had a bad feeling and hurried to catch up. At the classroom door, Simon looked into the classroom where Anna was fooling around with her desk mate. The setting sun cast a soft glow on his figure, his gaze tender and disbelieving, as if caught in a dream he couldn't bear to wake from. My heart sank slowly. His behavior and demeanor didn't resemble the brooding teenager from before, rather, he looked like a refined professor 10 years down the line. Simon had also been reborn. What's wrong with him? Alan puzzled, patting him on the shoulder before squeezing into the classroom beside him. It's almost time for class, stop blocking the way. I followed my memory to find my seat. It was a self-study session. The classmates around me were quietly studying. I absent-mindedly flipped through a workbook with neat, childish handwriting. If I had a second chance at life, I definitely couldn't walk down the same old path. My mind gradually cleared, and my emotions slowly calmed down. Since Simon had been reborn, he probably didn't want any ties with me either. I had to stay away from him this time around, lest his death spatters blood on me. Nasty fellow. Just as I was thinking that, Simon's cold voice suddenly rang out. Adeline, give me your math notes. I looked up. What? He glanced at me, his demeanor distant, seemingly not noticing the difference in my behavior from the previous life. His eyes and mind were filled with Anna, long forgetting what I had done for him. Anna turned back, apologetic. Sorry, I just went to Simon for the notes, but he said your English is better. So he asked me to come to you. She smiled, so charming that it could have easily won anyone over. Unfortunately, that didn't work on me. I won't lend it, I still need to use it. If not for using it, then simply because I don't want to lend it. Anna's smile froze. Her desk mate Mike couldn't stand it and turned around to scold me. Adeline, as the class monitor, helping classmates is your duty. Borrowing notes shouldn't be like asking for your life. Quick, give it, Anna came to you out of respect, don't be evasive. His voice was loud, and the surrounding students turned their attention to us. Anna looked disappointed, but her gaze towards me held a hint of disdain. On the other hand, Wendy rolled her eyes, swallowed her snack, and started arguing. Stop moralizing here, Adeline's painstakingly organized notes, why should they be handed to you wolves? What, your grades are poor, so it entitles you to demand things? Seeing the two about to argue, Simon quickly interrupted. Enough, then, he turned to me, his voice softened, sincere and serious. Adeline, Anna is lacking in math. Only when her math improves can she apply to good schools. I stared at him quietly, feeling a little bitter. He didn't continue with his words. But I knew. Simon had attended university in that city in his past life, and he hoped to attend the same university as Anna in the same city. In just a short 10 minutes, he had already planned out their future. I had never been taken so seriously by him before. In the first month of our marriage, he left to teach in a city far away, only coming home every few months and never calling me first. It wasn't that he couldn't, he just didn't love me. I lowered my gaze, feeling unworthy of the 10 years spent with him, while Simon thought I was hesitating. Weren't you always asking me to come over for dinner? He seemed to suddenly remember something, his beautiful eyes full of understanding. You help Anna improve her English grades, and I will come over for dinner at your place every month. He spoke with an air of condescension. How could he act so high and mighty, given how irresponsible he had been all this time? I couldn't hold back any longer, and I raised my head to meet his gaze. Am I such a despicable person in your eyes? Why do you always make me bear all the hardships? Simon's expression briefly faltered, about to say something, when the homeroom teacher suddenly pushed open the classroom door and walked in. He announced the news about the enrollment for the entrance exam of a prestigious university. Simon had been admitted to this school through this exam in his past life, but I hadn't participated. Simon and I raised our hands simultaneously. He looked at me with a hint of surprise, not understanding why I had made a different choice from our past lives. Adeline, are you planning to sign up too? Anna asked in confusion. Her voice was gentle, almost mocking my overestimation of my abilities. Self-awareness is crucial. With some effort, you might be able to go to a decent university, but compared to Simon, you still fall short. Participating would just be a waste of time for you. Or maybe you're just trying to attract someone's attention. She glanced at Simon, who was focused on her words, the implication in her tone clear. How could she be so sure I couldn't do it? In my past life, I had not participated in the exam because I didn't want to compete with Simon for a spot. His family was struggling, and if he could secure a spot, he would have more time to work and earn money for university expenses. Little did I know, after being admitted, he would come to school every day just to catch a glimpse of Anna. Thinking of this, I spoke calmly. Why is it your concern? Is this something a student at the bottom of the class like you should consider? Anna's eyes immediately reddened. And as she watched her crush being bullied, Simon, who had been silent all along, suddenly spoke up. Apologize to Anna right now. She was trying to advise you genuinely, and you should know better. And trying to gain my attention, there's no need to resort to such a ridiculous way. His tone was cold. Playing with your future, Adeline, don't be so naive. I couldn't be bothered to deal with him, so I raised my hand to signal the homeroom teacher, who was watching the scene unfold. Teacher, I want to change my seat. The barking dogs around here are disturbing my studies. Simon's face darkened, and he stared coldly at me. The teacher was a bit puzzled, but agreed nonetheless. After class, I moved to the seat next to Alan. He always occupied the last row and slept there without anyone daring to disturb him. It was quiet, and I was satisfied. I packed up my things, and as I glanced sideways, I saw Anna leaning back slightly, her long black hair scattered on Simon's desk. The boy looked silently at her, and after a while, his fingertips moved slightly, gently picking up a strand of her long hair, with restraint and reverence. I rolled my eyes involuntarily. On our wedding night, he had gone to sleep in the guest room because my hair had fallen on his pillow, and he found it disgusting. Disgusting? Did he really think his moonlight was some kind of pristine saint? Without Simon, I felt surprisingly comfortable that day. After school, the homeroom teacher asked me to help him grade some papers for a while. By the time I got to the residential area, it was almost dark. A few aunties walking their dogs in front were chatting casually. Did you hear? That madman from the third building was taken to a mental hospital by his son. He beat him too severely. I went to see. It's really tragic. The boy looked so well behaved. How could he bear to beat him? My steps faltered. Our house was in the third building. And that madman was Simon's father. In my past life, he would often go crazy and beat Simon, leaving him covered in bruises. Under my desk, I always kept a small first aid kit to tend to his wounds. I had suggested calling the police to report him, but he thought I was meddling too much. It seemed that in this life, he had chosen not to endure it anymore. Not long after, I saw Simon curled up on a bench. There were traces of fresh blood on his forehead, making his pale face look somewhat sickly. The surrounding lights flickered, and the cold wind tousled his messy hair, and I unexpectedly met a pair of bewildered eyes. I averted my gaze, preparing to turn and leave expressionlessly. "Adeline," he called out to me. Then, as if he suddenly realized something, his expression returned to its previous cold detachment. "What are you doing here?" Feeling annoyed, I hastened my steps. But he suddenly chuckled. The low, hoarse voice came from behind. "Don't think I don't know, you're here to play the savior. You love extending a helping hand when others are in trouble. Do you think I will like you for that? On the contrary. I hate this hypocritical side of you the most." I stood frozen, realizing what he had said, shaking with anger. Was that how he saw me? My affection for him, my concern, was seen by him as patronizing, as hypocrisy? Had I spent the past 10 years loving such an ignorant fool? "You're wrong," I took a deep breath, trying to keep my tone calm. "I'm not here to be a savior." Then, I stepped forward quickly, and with a swift movement, I raised my right hand and slapped him hard. "I'm here to see how pathetic you look." After the slap, I shot him a fierce glare and turned to leave, leaving Simon standing dumbfounded in place. After slapping him, I felt much better. When we were in school, we would also tacitly pretend to be strangers. Occasionally, I would overhear news about him and Anna. He would hand copy hundreds of pages of notes for Anna. He would get into fights with thugs for Anna outside of school. He would ride for miles to buy freshly baked desserts for Anna. In the past, when I asked him to pour me a glass of water, he would find it annoying. Indeed, true love is different. At this point, I felt calm and even wanted to curse at the fool. I used to love Simon, not just because of his astonishing looks. It was also because I admired his strength. I loved his intelligent and clear-headed, aloof and fragile demeanor. But looking back now, if I had followed his path, I wouldn't have been worse off than him. After leaving Simon, my life gradually got back on track. Wendy, finding Simon's surroundings chaotic, moved to the back row and talked to me about various topics every day. When Alan saw the review materials I prepared for the entrance exam, he suddenly became motivated, didn't feel like sleeping anymore, and joined Wendy and me in studying. By the time of the monthly exam, his score had improved by over 100 points. His parents warmly invited Wendy and me to their house for dinner. During the meal, his mother kindly held my hand, wanting to adopt me as her goddaughter, but Alan interrupted. With his hands in his pockets, in a nonchalant manner, he said, "Mom, if you want to adopt someone, there are other ways." I pretended not to understand, playing with the puppy bouncing under the table. The puppy was too cute, and I couldn't resist feeding it a piece of chicken breast. The dog excitedly performed 2 backflips for me. Dogs know how to be grateful, but some people don't. As the exams approached, I began to diligently follow my review plan. Simon gradually faded from my view. The next time I encountered him was at the entrance to the gym equipment room. The physical education teacher asked me to get the basketball for class. As I walked to the equipment room's entrance, I saw the figure standing in front of the door. Simon had his head down, the corners of his eyes red, looking like a forlorn dog. The equipment room's door was slightly ajar, and I could clearly hear the conversation between Anna and her friend. "Anna, how could you dare to eat what he gave you?" "His dad is a lunatic who knows if he has any viruses on him," her friend said disdainfully. "Don't say that, viruses or no viruses," Anna's voice rang out leisurely, "just some genes. Look at him, with that gloomy face all the time, he probably has some of that lunatic's genes, but it's okay, just for fun." Her friend laughed loudly, "But it seems like he's pretty serious. I heard he took 3 jobs to support you." "Seriously, but really good at flattering. Just a fool, easy to hook." "Before him, be honest, this little mad dog I haven't had enough of yet," Anna sneered. "Not in front of him, though. Pretend to be honest, this little fool still hasn't had enough entertainment from me." Simon's hands holding the cake trembled slightly. I could imagine how uncomfortable it must have been to see the moonlight fall from Grace. Hearing Anna's words made things clearer for me too. With her personality, she probably never wrote a love letter to Simon in her past life. She said those things just to smear me and provoke Mike. In this life, I didn't want to be involved in their melodramatic love triangle drama, so I turned to leave. But Simon grabbed my wrist firmly. "Let go!" I couldn't break free, he dragged me outside. Like a madman, he pressed me in a corner. His once cold eyes were now filled with hatred. "Did you spread the news about my dad, Adeline? Are you satisfied now? Is this how much you like me? Liking me enough to ruin my relationship with her?" I kicked him in anger. After 10 years of being together, even without love, there should be basic trust. Luckily, I had long given up hope on him. I looked at him coldly. "Simon, have you developed paranoia? Didn't you tell me about your dad on the first day you transferred here? Like you? How thick is your face? Anna was right about you being a fool." Surprisingly, Simon didn't retort. It seemed like some belief was crumbling within him, his strength was ebbing away, and he slowly slumped against the wall, finally sitting on the ground. I watched his expression of despair intently. I wanted to capture it, take out the photo when I'm feeling down, and laugh. Suddenly, the person in front of me chuckled. And as he laughed, tears filled his eyes. "Am I going crazy?" I heard him muttering almost inaudibly, "It was my fault, I shouldn't have." In that moment, I understood. During this time, he might have noticed Anna's unusual behavior. But in the 10 years of the past life, he had poured too much intense emotion into that illusory bubble. So, he had been deluding himself. Now, the filter had cruelly shattered. He couldn't believe it. Didn't want to admit that he had risked his life for such a person. So, he shifted the blame to an innocent person like me. I looked at Simon, his eyes red, and sneered. Regardless of past or present, he was still the coward. I didn't want to see him regret or go mad anymore, so without hesitation, I turned and walked away, leaving him to cry and laugh in the background. I wasn't as foolish as Simon. In this new life, I wouldn't waste time on unworthy people, driving myself mad. I had long persuaded my parents to invest in future emerging industries. I also significantly improved Wendy's grades. Not getting into the ideal school was a big regret for Wendy in her past life. This time she got her wish. Everything was moving in a positive direction. After that day, I heard that Simon and Anna had a big argument. But that had nothing to do with me. The only thing that concerned me was that he no longer revolved around Anna, but instead buried himself in his studies. After all, he had taken this exam in his previous life and remembered some of the questions. I had to put in more effort than him to surpass him. Wendy and Alan both noticed my unusual behavior. But the two of them silently chose not to disturb me. On the day of the exam, I walked out of the examination room. The sunlight was spread evenly on the road, like a cat basking in the sun in the afternoon, quiet and beautiful. The answering process went smoothly, and I could finally breathe a sigh of relief. Alan was holding 3 cups of juice, waiting for me at the door with Wendy. He waved to me, his messy hair being tousled by the breeze, giving off a natural and youthful vibe. I quickened my pace to meet them. He handed me the milk tea, his handsome features focused and gentle. "Let's go, I'll treat you guys to dinner." After dinner, I spent the whole afternoon playing at the amusement park with them. It had been a long time since I had felt this happy. Since my rebirth, my spirit had been tense. Today, I finally felt the long-lost relaxation. As if all my troubles had disappeared, a strange feeling seeped into my blood through my pores, awakening my lifeless cells. It was as if I had come alive again. In the following days, I ended up becoming the most relaxed one. Every day, I was sent to buy meals for Wendy and Alan. Today, early in the morning, Wendy insisted on eating the burgers at the school's south gate, so during lunch break, I went to run errands for her without any complaints. As I walked out of the school gate, I brushed past a familiar blonde-haired person, hearing him say, "Don't worry, babe, that guy who bullied you has been taken care of by us." He led 3 or 5 lackeys and casually got into a van. It suddenly dawned on me. This blonde-haired person was Anna's thug ex-boyfriend, the one who used to pick Anna up at the school gate. I turned into an alley without understanding, only to find Simon lying by the garbage can with blood all over his head. So it was him they took care of. But I started to doubt. Did I really suppress him? Why is it that every time he was in a miserable state, I could always show up on time and mock him? I looked down at the ground where Simon was lying, lifted my leg to step over him, but he reached out and tightly grabbed my ankle. Still alive? What a pity! His eyes were unfocused, as if he couldn't differentiate between dreams and reality. "Adeline, it's you again to save me." He let go. His fingers were ice cold and sticky, which disgusted me a bit. But he held on tight, and I couldn't break free. So I bent down, and one by one, I pried open his fingers. His eyelashes trembled lightly, looking at me steadily with a nauseating sense of nostalgia in his eyes. "Adeline, have you had enough of playing games of cat and mouse? I'll give you a chance to save me. In the past, it was my misjudgment of people, and now I understand that only you are sincere to me. Stop playing around, let's make up, shall we?" I paused. Didn't he realize that I had also been reborn? I had never deliberately hidden this fact. But he arrogantly assumed that I was still the same Adeline who would never leave him in the past. All my abnormalities were just to gain his attention. How self-assured. I ran out of patience, stood up without hesitation, and stepped on his hand that was reaching out to me. He yelped in pain, cold sweat breaking on his forehead. "If you don't speak like a human, then don't blame me for not acting as one." I slowly crushed his bone-defined fingers under my foot, calmly saying, "Simon, after being reborn, why haven't you made any progress?" His pupils suddenly constricted, his face becoming even paler. "Adeline, you wait, have you also?" I was too impatient to listen, so I released my foot and turned to leave. That night, I was grading assignments for the class teacher as usual. But as I was heading home, it started to rain. The raindrops were fine and dense, and there was a salty and humid smell in the air that didn't dissipate, making me feel restless. Just as I was about to enter the building, I suddenly saw a figure standing outside my window. I lived on the first floor, and the person was standing there without an umbrella, staring fixedly in the direction of my house without moving. Summoning my courage, I approached to take a closer look, and it was Simon. Through the rain curtain, I saw the thick, unrelenting sadness in his eyes. When he saw me returning, he subconsciously tried to come closer, but my disgusted attitude stung him, leaving him frozen in place. "Adeline, I'm sorry." The raindrops fell, hitting him one by one, as if trying to bend his pride as well. After all this time, I finally received an apology. But I didn't care anymore. I gripped the umbrella handle tight. "I know, so please leave." He didn't move, standing silently in the same spot with red-rimmed eyes. When I was on the rooftop, I thought I had lost my true love forever. But after leaping down, there was only you in my mind, waiting for me at home for dinner. Anna was just an obsession of my youth. Adeline, the one I truly loved, was you. I scoffed. You love me? You went to find Anna right after being reborn. You bought so many cakes for Anna, but you couldn't even bother to cook a bowl of noodles for my birthday. And you call that love? I said calmly, while Simon's face grew even paler. Perhaps people could be trapped by things they couldn't have in their youth forever. But that wasn't the reason he hurt me. Simon lowered his head more and more, but when he heard the last sentence, he suddenly looked up at me. A child? We have a child? Boy or girl? How old? He stepped forward in a panic, his eyes and brows filled with the thrill of becoming a new father. After a moment, he suddenly realized something, and the smile on his lips froze. I don't know. I was pregnant for a month and got killed by your moonlight and good brother, I said calmly and cruelly. In fact, I didn't know if I was dead, I just wanted to hurt him with these words. Simon finally couldn't bear it anymore. He covered his face with his hands and squatted down, making a stifled sob in his throat. I walked past him and entered the house. Watching Simon crying uncontrollably outside the window, I felt a sense of relief. The pain should not be mine alone. Simon dropped out of school. I was successfully recommended for admission. After the admission news came out, Wendy wanted to find Simon to show off, but couldn't find him. She put all her effort into studying, and her grades skyrocketed. After being recommended for admission, I rarely went to school. I just occasionally sent some study materials to Wendy and Alan. Alan said he wanted to attend the same university with me and have a campus romance. But getting into that university was not easy. Even so, seeing someone work hard to catch up with me touched me. So, I sent him more study materials in return. Alan gritted his teeth and said, Adeline. Reyes has a question for me, how can I make it? It's not enough. I heard about Simon again a few months later. He stabbed Anna and Mike 8 times each, but the wounds were not fatal. Both of them were in the ICU, still unconscious. The police searched for him for 3 days, but he was nowhere to be found. All the classmates and teachers were shocked by his cruelty. Only I knew that he was a lunatic inside. The police questioned his teachers and classmates. I was also there. After returning from the police station to home, I took out the keys to open the door. Suddenly, a cloth with a strong odor covered my mouth and nose. I instantly lost consciousness. When I woke up, I found myself tied to a chair on the rooftop of an abandoned building. Simon, dressed in a suit, stood at the edge of the building with his back to me, lost in thought. The cold wind blew, lifting up the dried leaves and gravel on the ground. Despair surged in my heart. Sensing movement behind me, Simon turned around and calmly lit the candles on the table. It was then that I noticed the table was full of my favorite dishes. Simon sat next to me, his delicate face half bathed in the candlelight, half shrouded in darkness. What do you want? I coldly locked eyes with him. A gentle smile tugged at his lips, his calm gaze hiding a hint of imperceptible madness. Adeline, have you forgotten? I still owe you an anniversary, he said with a warm smile. I looked at him steadily. Let me go home, you won't be able to hide with me for long. It was as if he didn't hear my words, busily ladling me a bowl of soup. This is our first anniversary. I made your favorite pork rib soup, try it. I couldn't bear to listen anymore and impatiently interrupted, Simon, have you lost your memory? Do you need me to help you remember? His hand froze in midair. On our first anniversary, you used a camera to make a heartfelt confession to Anna. In the hope of reuniting with her in the vast ocean of stars, you jumped from the 18th floor, abandoning your wife and child. Do you remember now? My tone was full of mockery, and Simon's eyes turned red instantly. He reached out and hugged me, resting his cheek against my neck, coaxing me in a semi-spoiled manner. Let's have a good day today, no mention of these things, okay? After so many years of being together, he knew how to calm me down. In the past, whenever he acted spoiled towards me, I would soften and submit to him. But now, I just felt disgusted. I kicked the table. The red wine bottle toppled and spilled onto the table, staining him with dark red liquid. He ignored it, showing no signs of anger. He just reached out and touched my cheek lightly, his gaze deep and intense, as if wanting to etch the scene into his heart forever. "We don't have much time left, Adeline," he said with a faint smile. His dark eyes were as calm as the night. "What time?" I felt uneasy and instinctively moved away from him. "Don't be afraid, I won't hurt you again," he said bitterly, noticing my actions. I didn't believe him at all. Suddenly, the sound of a police siren could be heard in the distance, and I breathed a sigh of relief instantly. During the police questioning, I voluntarily asked to have a tracker installed on me. I went home alone to lure out Simon. He bent down, lightly kissed my forehead as if bidding a final farewell. I heard him whispering with a sigh, "Adeline, how did we end up like this? If he hadn't been so obsessed with Anna, if he had taken responsibility from the beginning, maybe we would have been a happy family of 3 now." Sadly, there are no ifs. Fortunately, there are no ifs. A dazzling white light suddenly shone on the rooftop, and I squinted my eyes. The next moment, Simon had several red dots concentrated on him. He stood up, looking at me reluctantly, taking step after step backwards. I looked up, meeting his gaze. There was no surprise in his eyes, just a sense of relief. In that moment, chills ran down my spine. I suddenly realized he knew it was my trap. And he didn't intend to escape at all. When he reached the edge of the building, Simon stopped. He flashed me a reassuring smile, calm yet desperate. "Adeline, I will atone for you on my own terms." I looked at him firmly. "Simon. Stop right there. Why does he get the easy way out? I don't want to let him off the hook like this. He hurt me, he hurt others, he should spend the rest of his life repenting in prison. Adeline, I love you." The cool breeze from the rooftop wafted his last words towards me and tousled his hair. He leaned back. In that moment, I felt like I was back in that summer afternoon. The air was hot and humid, the walls of the classroom were peeling, and the boy leaned lazily under the creaking fan, looking at me with a slight blush on his ears, his voice clear and melodious. "Adeline, do you like me?" After the college entrance examination, we all went our separate ways. Wendy did well and went to a nearby university. We occasionally meet up during long holidays. Alan missed the score requirement for that university by a few points. Although he could have gone to a decent university, he chose to repeat the exam. Mike and Anna were too severely injured to have become vegetative, not knowing when they would wake up, and naturally did not take the college entrance exam. University life was busy but fulfilling. I tried many new things I hadn't experienced in my past life. Although not exceptional compared to my past life, I was happy nonetheless. After all, happiness is the most rare and magical ability. Despite the hardships and pain of my past life, it didn't stop me from falling in love with this world again. The second year of the school season. As a department head, I went to welcome the new students. A few bold freshmen came up to ask for my contact information, and I smiled and politely declined each one. Then, a familiar voice rang out, "You guys are doing it all wrong, watch and learn." I looked up to see a boy, lazily pushing a luggage under the sunlight, eyes fixed on mine from a distance. "Senior, want a date? My dog can do backflips, you know." Epilogue, the first day with Alan. It was a rather ordinary weekend. There were no flowers, movies, or dinners. I had to return to the lab for an experiment all day as my supervisor had called me back, so I had to stand him up. The experiment was too hectic, leaving me completely preoccupied. He was considerate enough not to disturb me. When the experiment finally ended, I glanced at my phone. The first thing that popped up was a long rant from my roommate. I couldn't help but laugh out loud. I opened the chat with Alan, and a message popped up just in time. "Is the experiment done? Why aren't you talking to me? Don't you miss me? I miss you so much." Then he quickly retracted the message. "Sorry. Do you miss me?" Walking out of the lab building, I replied to him, "I miss you, but I can resist. But I can't resist." I heard a voice and suddenly looked up. Alan was standing at the entrance of the lab building, with a smile playing on his lips and his usual look of carefree laziness in his eyes. I walked briskly towards him. He casually unwound his scarf and draped it around my neck, then pulled out a cup of warm ginger tea from his pocket and handed it to me. "You didn't come to find me, did you forget about me?" he accused in a teasing tone. I smiled and took his hand. "How could I forget you? I was thinking about you, didn't you hear me?" His lips curled up, I heard. I nodded in agreement, complimenting, "Indeed, a dog's hearing is better than a person's." Hearing my words, he didn't get mad, but instead placed my cold hand into his pocket. There were few people walking on the campus at night. The two of us strolled leisurely along the path in the moonlight. After a while, his voice floated gently to my ears. "Dogs also miss their owners. I miss you so much." 5 years with Alan. He proposed to me. The gentle waves sparkled with soft foam, resembling a softly colored painting. Under the light caress of the breeze, he gazed at me with focus and calm, though his hands were trembling slightly. "Adeline, today is our 5th anniversary. When I woke up this morning and saw your profile in my arms, I thought I couldn't love you more than at that moment. But now, my love for you has grown a bit more. You are smart, independent, brave, and sincere. Your soul shines brightly like a rainbow. Although the better things are worth waiting for, the thought of being with you forever makes me not want to wait any longer." With that, he raised his hand to remove the watch he had given me on the day we confirmed our relationship 5 years ago. With a slight twist, a ring popped out. "Adeline, will you marry me?" I was stunned. He had actually hidden the ring on me 5 years ago. He thought I was hesitating. Nervously, he quickly said, "I'll take care of the housework after we get married, and I'll deal with it if you don't want children." I pounced on him and hugged him tightly, saying, "Deal." "Don't you dare go back on it," he stiffened. The next moment, he hugged me back tightly. I felt warm liquid sliding down into my neck. It was sweet. In order to propose, Alan had quietly arranged for our close friends to come to this island. That night, we gathered together to celebrate the successful proposal. When I came back from the restroom, I saw Wendy holding a bottle of wine and questioning Alan with a stern expression. Alan straightened up, looking like a primary school student being questioned by a teacher. His eyes were clear, but his face was slightly flushed, indicating that he was a bit tipsy. "But Land Rover cars, we have several of them at home, I usually let the maid drive them." Wendy tightened her grip on the bottle, gritting her teeth, and I hurried over, trying to take the alcohol away from both of them. But Alan tightly grabbed my sleeve. "Adeline, try this grilled octopus, it's especially fresh." My eyes shifted towards the octopus and then to the mushrooms in the pot. I quietly called a cab to take us to the hospital. In a past life, I avoided it for half of my life. I dare not face my feelings for Anna. I could only hide in the dark corners, like a mouse that can't stand the light, peeking at her happiness. When I jumped down, there was no relief or liberation in my heart. Instead, there was a sense of panic. All I could see in my mind was Adeline's face. She had called this morning, speaking cheerfully, saying she had bought my favorite food and was waiting for me to come home for dinner. I was dead. What would she do now? At that time, I naively thought that I only felt guilty towards her. In this new life, I was still avoiding. Perhaps, I had long realized that Adeline had also returned. The moment I opened my eyes and saw 18-year-old Adeline, I had a premonition. She had neatly tied her hair in a ponytail, her hair was frizzy, and even the oversized school uniform couldn't hide her radiance and vitality. But her eyes carried exhaustion and hatred. I should have realized it long ago. But I couldn't believe it. I attributed her abnormality to the butterfly effect, to her trying to get my attention. But the reality was the one thing I least wanted to admit. She had been reborn too. She didn't want me anymore. Adeline was right. In this new life, I had not made any progress. Always avoiding, never truly understanding my own heart. As I jumped off the building, I looked at Adeline one last time. Her eyes of disgust and hatred slowly blurred and dissipated before me. When I regained consciousness once more, I was met with Adeline's excited face. What's going on? Why was she so happy? She sat on the sofa, looking at me with a smile in her eyes. What name should we choose? Oh, we don't even know if it's a boy or a girl yet. She gently touched her belly, talking with excitement and anticipation. Tears uncontrollably welled up in my eyes as I tightly held her hand, leaning my head against her small abdomen, savoring the happiness of a second chance at life. What are you listening to? Her voice was filled with laughter. It's only been a few months, you shouldn't be able to hear it yet. After all, he was killed by your best friend and crush. I suddenly looked up. Her face twisted and contorted in front of me, resembling a demon. Turns out, I hadn't reached heaven. I had descended into hell.